Hey guys, it's Liz, and welcome to another episode of Retro Rebuild, the show where I rebuild my wardrobe from the ground up by hand. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my tropical playsuit make, and I used McCall's 3640, and it's a vintage pattern from the 40s. But I bought a scanned reprint version of it from Etsy. The seller is Lady Marlowe. She sells lots of scanned reprints of vintage patterns. And it's pretty nice because she'll grade them up and all of the scans are nice and digitized, modern, clean. You won't worry about ripping them. Recommend, highly recommend. So I ordered a size 38 bust, and that actually fits pretty well in the top. And then I actually did have to grade down on the waist a little bit. This pattern actually comes with a top, shorts, and trunks. I did not bother making the trunks. I really should have graded out on the hips a bit because though I made a toile, I did not install a zipper on the toile, and I live to regret that decision because I didn't even think about it, but there's two lines of stitching where the zipper is installed and it tacks down the two pleats next to that. My toile they weren't tacked down, so that gave me a false sense of security that I was going to be able to get this thing over my butt. And my butt laughed at that when I went to try on my final product. It was way too small. It wouldn't go up over the hips, and that's always a little bit of a thing for me because my waist measurement is kind of smaller than your typical, whatever my hip is, basically. Yeah, I regretted that decision to not grade up in the hips. As you can see, the shorts are kind of a loose, almost like a skirt style, and that was my downfall because I thought, they're kind of loose, there'll be a lot of ease. And there wasn't. At least not up through the hip area. So don't be lazy like me, make a toile and put the zipper in just to make sure it's gonna fit you. I bought this Hawaiian print from fabric.com, and the trim is 100% cotton. I got it from Hobby Lobby. I didn't use too much of it. I didn't even use a full spool, but it's 1/2 inch by 2 yards. So then I also used a bias binding that I had gotten from a flea market. They had lots of vintage things, and I was lucky enough to find a lady selling her mom's old sewing notions. The packaging for the bias binding looks to be probably from like the early 60s, early to mid 60s, I would guess. It doesn't have a date, I checked, but that's okay. That's my vintage touch, even though it's slightly different era. So I also used a zipper that came from that stash too. I don't even think it's really vintage. It's plastic, so the pattern calls for you to insert the zipper all the way up to the waistband, the top of the waistband, but I didn't really want to do that. I kind of wanted the zipper to go up until the bottom of the waistband and then be able to close it with some sort of hook and eye or button or something. So I did have these sew-on wide hook and eye closures, and they're just comes with it's a set of 2, and it's drits, and I cannot find these anywhere. I think I'm gonna have to order them online. So I wouldn't call it difficult, but you definitely need to know some basic garment construction because the instructions are somewhat sparse. They are not like modern day instructions where it tells you every single step you have to do. It's kind of like, you knew how to do this, right? Maybe, you want to sew this for your first project ever. No, I would not recommend doing that. But once you kind of have sewn a few maybe like big 4 patterns or maybe some other indie patterns, then you can move up to this one. It didn't take me too long at first. I was kind of chugging along. I did the top and that only took me a couple of days, I think. And then I sewed the shorts, and silly me, thought they were gonna fit perfectly because I made a toile, which it wasn't a toile, but went to zip them up and I couldn't get them on really at all. So that basically made me put this project aside for weeks. I don't even know how long it's been. Actually about a month, I would say. Once I kind of got back into the mindset of fixing the shorts for real, I would say it took me about 6 hours, so altogether maybe a 15-hour project, something like that. And that doesn't include the hand sewing. I guess I would tack on another hour or 2 for that. It didn't take too long to do all the trim, but you know, if you don't like hand sewing, just don't. I would give this project overall maybe, I have high standards, so I'm gonna say like 3.5 out of 5 donuts. It's definitely not the most flattering thing I've ever put on my body. Part of that is just my own mental block about things. I don't really show my midriff. Maybe if I'm wearing a bathing suit, but even then, not too much these days. I think I like them both separately. I don't know how much I love them together on me. So it's gonna be a little tough to wear it out, but the other thing that's not ideal is my undergarment situation with this. I don't really have a great bra to wear with it. This one's okay. You don't really see the straps that much, but you can see them, and you can also see the back part where it hooks, which I'm not really into the like exposed bra look. I did actually buy some like foam cups, you know, because I was thinking maybe I would insert those and then I wouldn't have to wear a bra, but the way that it ties, it's like it can kind of shift around depending on how you've tied it and how you put it on. And I wasn't really feeling comfortable with the cup situation with that. So I have a bit of a love affair with Hawaii, even though I've never been, but I really want to go. And every time I see a tropical print or Hawaiian print, I just want to buy it and make something with it. Also, it's summertime and it's hot and it's Florida, and I thought, you know, tropical Florida went together. The thing that makes it for me really is the fabric and the trim combination. I think it's so cute. It's adorable. Let's see how I made this bad boy. Let's get sewing. Alright, so this is actually my first time using a vintage pattern. It is a reprint, but all of the instructions, as I said before, are original. So the level of difficulty was a bit higher than your average big 4, big 3, whatever the heck they are now, pattern. But basically it just started from the beginning. You just sew the center seams for the facing and the front piece. That's what I'm doing there, and just sew up to the circles marked on the pattern. Oh, look at that pattern matching. I think I did a pretty darn good job, if I do say so myself. So this is the back ties, and then you sew 2 of them, and you only sew up to circle. And then you turn. Just kidding, you trim it first and then you turn. And of course press. goes without saying. Oh, look at that handsome guy. That's my hubs. And that is the shirt I made him. And it is the same material. So we can be that matchy-matchy couple. I think it's cute. So at this point, I've sewed the center seams of the facing and the top. And so now I'm sewing princess seams onto the front. So this is how it's laid out. I find it helpful to stop and kind of look at stuff, big picture every couple of steps, just to make sure I'm not sewing the wrong thing together. Because it's really easy to do that, unfortunately. But I decided which straps I wanted to be for the front, and then which I wanted to be kind of the interior. And now I'm pinning the facing to the front of the top. And then you sew all the way around, and it's a little bit tricky when you get to the tie area. There's just a lot of fabric kind of awkwardly bunched up. Yeah, see, as you can tell, the stitches there aren't really even, so I just went back and re-stitched those just to make sure it would be nice and secure and neat. And then turn everything right side out. In case anyone was thinking Florida's sunny and hot and beautiful all the time, well, in the summer it is like this. Almost every afternoon. For about an hour or two. So here I am serging all of my short panel pieces and the crotch. Just to finish off all the raw edges. So I did kind of jump back and forth between the top and the shorts a little bit, just to kind of keep it interesting for myself. But so the first seams that you sew with the shorts are the crotch seams, minus, the part with the zipper. But just go through and follow the instructions, being sure to mark and sew the correct panels, unlike myself, who totally sewed a front piece where back should be, and then I had to go back and seam rip it, and I was sad. So don't be like me. Mark all your pieces. Yeah. So this is the crotch portion, I believe. And then I sewed that seam. As you can see, I go kind of slow because I'm trying to make sure that my pieces are all matching up and lining up. So that is the crotch piece, but I have since learned that it is a good idea to finish the crotch seam like really close to it, so instead of like clipping into it. So at this point I realized that I had kind of gone out of order a little bit, and I should have sewn this seam right here before I did a whole bunch of other stuff. So I had to go back and do that afterward. It wasn't a big deal, but just try to keep in mind the correct order of things when you're making this pattern. Should I screw this up? Oh, yes I did. Why, yes. Yes, I did. I screwed it up. I had not, in fact, screwed it up, as I so eloquently put it. I just, since I did it out of order, it was kind of confusing, but it was actually correct. It was the pleating that was messing me up. So, as you can see in the back, there's all that pulling, and that should have been an indication for me that there was a problem. So I have tried on the bodice and the shorts, and they fit very nicely. Or I shouldn't say bodice, the top, I guess, of the playsuit. And now I just have to do the bias binding on this right here. This is the kind of armpit area. And then the bottom of the top, So this is all finished off with a bias binding. And I am going to use this bias tape that I got from that flea market. So it's pretty cool, vintage. So I did just go ahead and serge the side seams for the top, the edges, the raw edges, because it just gives a nice clean finish. You don't have to finish off the princess seams or the front seam because the facing comes down, and I will press the princess seams inward towards the front center seam, and then I will hand stitch the facing on top of that, so it will be encased. So right now I am sewing the straps to the bodice. Those will be encased in the bias tape. The strap placement, at least for me, was very good on the pattern, and definitely follow that. I'm gonna do the next one. Well, you heard me. So I basically took the bias tape and made extra sure before I sewed it that I was going to be sewing it the right way and I was going to have enough of it. So you sew it on the right side first, and then you flip it over, and then you hand sew the other side on. And I think I used a slip stitch. Whatever it was invisible anyway, and you can barely see the little teeny stitches. I think it looks kind of cool, kind of like handmade, you know? Because it is. But yeah, it gives it a really nice finish. I really like that bias tape. So here is the inside of the top. And look at that, there's no raw edges anywhere. Everything's enclosed, either with the facing or with the bias tape. So I have decided to move on to the waistband. And that's simply just sewing in half, and then you fold it over, and then you do the thing where you encase like so the raw edge within the waistband. So I actually had pinned the other side out of the way to make sure I didn't sew it on accident, and that was helpful. I just sewed the waistband onto the shorts, and as you can see, it is raw. And I'm going to go press the seam allowance up towards the top of the waistband, and I'm going to turn in the seam allowance on the other side of the waistband right here. And then press that, 1/2 inch. And then I will fold that down, being careful to get this edge here. And then it will be nice and encased. So then I moved on to stitching down the waistband on the inside using a slip stitch. And then I installed the zipper by hand, which you can do, but as you can see, what I did was not the proper way. Those wingy things should have been secured down next to the zipper. Hi friends, so I have been adjusting these shorts, trying to salvage the fit, and I think I'm getting somewhere. I let out the seams, and I'm kind of having to adjust the pleat back here quite a bit to account for the old booty. I do need to actually taper this a little bit more because I let too much out too high. So I'm getting these little weird poofy things here. That's an easy fix. Yeah, I think I'm on the right track. I let these out quite a bit, these seams. That seemed to help. So I'm gonna fix the top parts here and then adjust the pleat. So, time to break out the old seam ripper again. My trusty seam ripper. And I had to kind of mess with that seam, the zipper seam. And just, I think I redid that like 3 times, trying to get it to look right and lay right. And then it was just a matter of hemming and putting on the finishing touch, which is this beautiful cotton trim. The only problem is that all the little pom-poms you see, there's nothing holding them together, and they're all created by threads. So I had to put a drop of fray check on every single pom-pom. But it was worth it because it looks really cute, I think. And yeah, I'm happy with the fit, I'm happy with it overall. So thank you so much again for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that this will help you if you decide to make this vintage reproduction pattern. Let me know if you do. Tag me on Instagram. My handle is @LizVonVillis, and I'm on Facebook too, but I don't really have too much going on there, so Instagram would be the best for me. So if you do decide to make this McCall 3640, then make sure you tag it on Instagram with M3640. And then also go ahead and tag me because I would love to see what you make. And yeah. Thanks again for watching. And remember, if you are interested in following along with my journey, then hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye!